Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of Drawing with DJ. I'm back with a brand new episode of fusing your favorite Marvel and DC superheroes. In this video we're taking probably the most popular Marvel team of all time, the X-Men, and fusing it with one of my favorite DC teams, the Doom Patrol. And today I'm starting off with the most obvious choice, Professor X and the Chief. Niles Xavier was born to a wealthy family of British immigrants in late 19th century America. As a child, he was gifted in more ways than one. In addition to his genius-level intellect he inherited from his parents, he was also born with what would later go on to be named the X gene. During adolescence, this gene kicked in, granting him the power of telepathy, allowing him to learn faster than other students by reading lessons from his teachers' minds before they can even articulate them. This success would spur the ire of his stepbrother, Kane Rogers, who would go on to see himself as his arch-nemesis. In college, Niles would study in the burgeoning field of genetics in an attempt to figure out why he was the way he was, and eventually became a professor. His research would draw the attention of a peculiar man named Dr. Nathaniel Immortus.
I know what you are, Xavier.
Nathaniel's voice echoed from behind Niles. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that.
That's odd. I didn't say anything. Not allowed, anyway.
You see, Niles stammered before being silenced.
Do not worry, Professor. What you are is very exceptional. You are a metamutant, Niles. Apparently with the ability to read the minds of most people, but that may not be the only gift your genes have given you.
Dr. Immortus explained to Niles that metamutants had the potential to become immortal and offered to exponentially increase his funding to his studies if he pivoted towards creating a metamutant immortality serum. Niles went along with the plan, but found it odd that he could read Nathaniel's mind once but not again. He figured that he must have had some sort of motive to stop him from reading his mind. In his free time, he would practice strengthening his telepathy, eventually getting to the point where he could break through Nathaniel's barriers. He finished the serum in secret and tried leaving the university with it, but was confronted by Immortus. I am through with your scam, Immortus.
Are you now?
Immortus replied, lifting a handheld radio device.
The bomb I have planted in your spine would beg to differ.
Alright, Nathaniel, yeah, have it. Nathaniel handed him a briefcase. There it is. Now please don't do anything irrational. Immortus sat down his radio and opened the case. He saw that it was all there, and he let Niles go. Later that night, Immortus would check the briefcase again only to find Niles' toiletries. He went to activate the bomb, but as the illusion faded, he realized the detonator had been replaced with a brick. While the serum made him immortal, Niles was not invincible. He knew that the bomb in his spine could detonate at any moment, and dedicated the rest of his life to humanitarian work. After World War II ended, he would meet a young man named Brian Lyncher while supplying aid to a war-torn Markovia. After getting to know each other for a bit, Niles finally felt comfortable telling him a secret. I know what you are, Brian. And what would that be, Niles?
A metamutant, like me,
Niles answered telepathically. Niles explained to him about the bomb in his spine and requested his aid in removing it. With his mastery over magnetism, Brian was able to remove the bomb with ease, at the cost of the function of Niles' legs. To repay him, Niles would give him what little remained of his immortality serum. He would regret this eventually, after he and Brian had a falling out. I feel like, this one is one of my more obvious ideas of a fusion. I usually go for ones that are like a little bit out there, but not too much. But yeah, for this one, this is like the most obvious you can get. The only reason they didn't do this in like the official amalgams is because X-Men were fused with the JLA. So yeah, this is actually probably one of my least interesting fusions so far. I basically took the bald paraplegic leader and combined him with the redheaded paraplegic leader that the bald paraplegic leader was a ripoff of, probably allegedly. So yeah, hopefully I made up for that in the backstory. I feel like I did a pretty good job, not to toot my own horn. Because despite having like very similar designs, like I just mentioned, they have like pretty different backstories, but they can, they're still able to be fused pretty seamlessly. I think I did a decentish job of doing that. Also got to throw in a few characters that may or may not show up in a future video. Wink wink, vote in the polls. Wink wink. Whenever those come out, wink. Without further ado, we have Professor Niles Xavier, aka Chief X. Aurora Desai was the daughter of a Kenyan witch priestess and an Indian photojournalist. She was born with snow white hair and striking blue eyes, not present in either parent, giving them a clue that there was something special about their little girl. After about half a year of living in New York, the Desais decided to move to India to avoid the racial prejudice of 1950s America. The three of them lived a good life in Uttarakhand for about 5 years until an avalanche killed both parents, just barely sparing Aurora. Without any parents to provide for her, the orphan girl turned to a life of thievery, eventually being recruited by the psychic supervillain Shadowblood. It was a far cry from her previous life, but it was certainly better than starvation. After Shadowblood was eventually apprehended, she would abandon her life of crime and try to find any relatives who were still alive. After traveling across half of the country, someone would find her. She was a witch priestess like her mother, and was elated to see that young Aurora was born with a gift. She explained how irregular weather patterns would follow her wherever she went. The priestess would use her witch skills to help teach Aurora how to control her powers. After getting control of her powers, she would use them to send rain to areas hit by drought, cool down heat waves, and dry up floods. By the 1970s, she would become a local legend. Unfortunately, Shadowblood would break out of prison and saw far darker potential in Aurora. After Shadowblood failed to re-recruit her, the city of Dehradun was hit by an avalanche. Aurora kept using her pyrokinesis to try and melt the snow and ice, but it just refused to melt. She kept trying to save the citizens. She could hear screaming for help, but no matter how hard she pushed herself, nothing seemed to work. Eventually, she heard a voice unlike the others. "Aurora, your eyes deceive you. Shadowblood is using his mind tricks on you." She rubbed her eyes and saw the city in flames. After summoning wind and rain to put out the fires, she found Shadowblood. She froze him in place before he could run again, but noticed that he wasn't Shadowblood, and couldn't have run away if he wanted to. He was a red-headed paraplegic man. As she freed him from the ice, an angry mob began to surround her. Everybody, Let me help," the paraplegic man insisted. He then broadcast a psionic message to the city, explaining how Aurora was being manipulated, and that the real enemy was Shadowblood. He then used his powers to cancel out the villains while he was detained. "How did you do that?" Aurora inquired. "I, Professor Niles Xavier, was born with a certain gift, Aurora, just like you and your acquaintance, Amal. We are what I like to refer to as metamutants, humans born with a gene that gives us powers beyond that of normal humans. Not all of us, however, are born lucky enough to be as powerful as you or me, and whenever the world figures out what we are, they must know that we are not the enemy. To ensure they don't follow dark paths such as the one Shadowblood took, we need positive role models," he exposited. "What exactly are you asking of me, Niles?" "I'm asking if you would help me lead a team of metamutant heroes." Alright, so some of you who don't know Doom Patrol as well as I do might be wondering who I fuse Storm with. That would be Arani Desai, aka Celsius. She's basically Niles' wife in the comics. I don't know if I'm going to do that in this continuity because like the whole shipping stuff gets kind of weird when you're doing fusions. But yeah, she has like fire, ice powers. Complement Storm's like electric, water, and air powers. Basically just like an elemental character. Like super powerful. Also, the costumes fuse together pretty nicely. Both are known for having like black costumes with like little gold accents on them, so that was pretty seamless. Very few modifications. The only gripe is that it's basically Storm with like a chest window and a bendy dot and like the neck creams. I don't know what you call them. But yeah. And also with Celsius not being as popular of a character, I pretty much just took Storm's backstory and made some few minor tweaks, having it be in India instead of Africa, and combining a certain character from Storm's backstory with a DC character. Take your guesses of who that is in the comments. But yeah, it was, pretty seamless fusion of the stories. Just tacking a few things on and adding the spiel from Chief X at the end. So, yeah. And with that, we have Aurora Desai, a.k.a. Blizzard. Steve Summers grew up in a wealthy family with his half-brother, Joshua. They lived a great life until their family's private jet was struck down by some unknown force. When Steve finally came to, he was in a hospital. He had been in a coma for over a year. Joshua had been adopted by a family in Hawaii, and both of his parents were presumed dead. Steve would be sent to an orphanage in Nebraska. He had a plan to become an inventor, regain his wealth, and use it to find his brother, but in his teen years, that plan would fall on his head. One day on his walk to school, Steve witnessed a younger child getting bullied, which infuriated him. He ran between the bullies and their victim. "How about you two pick on someone your own size?" "Like who, Slim?" one of them asked while pushing Steve into the other. "This little orphan Annie here to save the day," he chortled before knocking Steve into the sidewalk, where he cracked his head on the pavement. "I said, back off!" A pulse of psychic energy flared from his eyes and caused both bullies to levitate. "He's a freak!" one of them yelled before Steve's eyes emitted a shockwave that launched both boys into a nearby house before shattering every window on the block. Steve would soon be sent to a special ward in a juvenile detention center blindfolded until he had a special visitor, a balding man in a wheelchair. "You're not here to send me off to some sort of freak show, are you?" "I'm not interested. Plus, I'm too dangerous to be around crowds," Steve said, defeated. "Well, first of all, Mr. Summers, I'd personally consider it more of a family." "What? How? That was like right in my brain." "I and the rest of my family are a lot like you, Stephen. We would like you to join us." "Sure, anything meets this dump," Steve said in a sigh of relief. Xavier took Steve home to X Manor, where he was greeted by the rest of the family. "Here, put these on, son," a voice implored him. Steve unwrapped his blindfold and put on a pair of specialized ruby quartz glasses. "Now open your eyes. These should help you with your special problems." Steve was able to see the world again without causing wanton destruction, albeit with a bit of a red tint. "Now that you can see me, my name is Henry Mentallo, but you can call me Hank or Muscle Beast," said a large man in front of him. The family includes Maurice Drake, the Ice Degenerate, and Karen Worthington, aka Angel Bug. We had a few more with us, but they're on trips around the world recruiting more people like us. For now, this is the X Patrol. Welcome to the team, bud. I can't thank you guys enough for everything," Steve said, holding back his emotions. Over time, Steve would modify the glasses into a visor that gave him control over his telekinetic powers within his line of sight. One day, while testing it out during a team training exercise, he would be called away by Chief X to help with a recruitment mission. "Cool to be doing field work with you, Professor, really, but what's the occasion? Why not bring someone more experienced like Hank?" "Every bird needs to leave the nest at one point or another, Stephen. In addition, I think you may be specially qualified for this case," Niles said with a smirk. He stopped at a cul-de-sac in a rich neighborhood. "Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Gray. How is Rita holding up?" Niles asked, entering their home. "Terribly. We've never seen her this bad." As he was wheeling Chief X to Rita's room, Steve asked, "Wait, Rita Gray? Like the young actress who disappeared a couple years ago?" "Some metamutants, Stephen, are less lucky than others," he answered while opening Rita's door, revealing a Cronenbergian monstrosity. "I believe she also may be lucky in a way, as I sense she began to develop a second metamutation, telekinesis. I believe the modifications you've made to your visor would make it perfect for helping her unlock this power." Alright, so this one, if you couldn't tell already, is a fusion of Psychlops and Minto. I mostly came up with this one because I had a good idea for a name. Cyclops, but it's spelled P-S-Y-C-H, Lops. You know, because Minto has, like, psychic powers. Powers-wise, he's basically just like Cyclops from Marvel, except he also has telekinetic beams instead of just kinetic beams, so he can also pull stuff, lift stuff instead of just punching stuff with his eye beams. I thought it was a cool fusion of the powers. Story-wise, I had a lot of fun. It was a little weird combining the backstories because Minto doesn't have a lot of backstory. He's basically just rich guy, makes psychic helmet to impress a woman. I was still able to like kind of combine that into Cyclops' story. I just had to add a little bit of other DC stuff into it. I'm gonna make a little bit more X Patrol fusions that I might draw in a later video. Take a guess as to who those people are in the comments. The engagement really helps. Thank you. Art-wise, I tried going for more of a stoic pose. Although it ended up being kind of boring. He's just kind of standing there putting fingers on his temple. Although I do think I did a pretty good job otherwise with the rendering and whatnot. It does look a little more like Cyclops than Minto, but not really too much I feel like I could have done about that. They both have pretty simple designs, so I just took Cyclops' like old design and just replaced the weird Y straps with like a lightning bolt and gave him Minto's little like antennas from his helmet. Otherwise, rendering looks good. Anatomy, I think I did a pretty decent job. Yeah. And with that, we have Steve Summers, aka Cyclops, but like spelled with like a P-S-Y, but because he's like Psych. Anna Trainer was raised by her two adoptive mothers, Laura and Irene, in rural Mississippi. Growing up, her mothers forbade her from coming into physical contact with anyone else, giving little explanation as to why. In her teen years, she would disobey her parents by kissing her best friend. She absorbed her memories and sent her into a coma. Mortified, she ran home and explained what happened. Laura would explain to her daughter that they were both metamutants and demonstrated her own metamutant ability of shapeshifting. Laura tried explaining that her power was a gift, but she would only see herself as a monster. Anna eventually became a test pilot, as she would be wearing a full-body suit in the air, miles above anyone she could harm with her so-called gift. One day she would realize that she wasn't as alone up there as she had previously assumed. Strange energy bombarded her plane, draining the power and causing it to crash. Anna was left horribly burned. In the infirmary, she was met by another test pilot, Carol Jordan, who was sporting a fancy emerald ring. Anna, barely lucid, involuntarily grabbed Carol's hand as if something was possessing her. A green alien energy surged through her body before she blacked out. Waking up in a jail cell, Anna realized something terrible must have happened and used her one phone call to call Laura for help. On the drive home, Laura explained to her daughter how she had found a place for people like them, a place where they could be accepted for who they were and learn how to use their powers to make a difference. She took her there and introduced her to their leader.
Welcome, Anna. Your mother has told me many great things about you. I am ecstatic to finally make your acquaintanceship. I am Brian Lyncher, but you can call me Magnum Brain. Welcome to the Brotherhood, Miss Trainer.
A cylindrical red and purple robot. A few weeks later, she would finally be ready for her first mission. The X-Patrol arrived on the scene with Blizzard, Cyclops, Rita, and their newest recruit, Night Beast. Percival Maximov, a.k.a. QuickTime, Mark Allardyce, a.k.a. Slag, and Sven Talansky, a.k.a. Amphibious Man, had tied a woman to some train tracks. The X-Patrol outnumbered the three Brotherhood goons, sending them running, and went to save the woman on the tracks. As Cyclops and Night Beast got close, she broke free from her bindings and grabbed the two of them, knocking them out. Anna then passed out herself before releasing a shadowy yet glowing figure. It grew a single large eye before blasting Blizzard with a telekinetic beam. Rita flew over and punted it across the train yard with an enlarged leg. It teleported behind her and transformed into a shadowy flying rhinoceros, charging right at her. It was then frozen by Blizzard and crashed into the ground. It then teleported out of the ice, changing its focus towards her. While the two of them were duking it out, Rita noticed a train coming towards Anna and flew into the train to save her, getting splattered in the process. The spirit then retreated back into Anna, and Anna fled the scene. As the X-Patrol were recuperating from battle, the X-Manor doorbell rang. Chief X opened the door to find Anna. "Are you not a member of Magnabrain's Brotherhood? What would make you think it was a good idea to come here?"
Well, my mama had convinced me that the Brotherhood's ways was the only way for metamutant kind to survive, to be feared, to become monsters. But after seeing Stephen Garfield's memories tonight of how y'all treat each other like people, not weapons, I ain't quite sure what to think no more. I guess you could say I've gone rogue, Chief.
After what you've done tonight, it will take some time to fully regain our trust. However, leaving you out in the cold would make me no better than Lyncher. Chief X was able to convince just over half of the X-Patrol to let her join as a probationary member. She would be given specially designed bandages and gloves to keep her from using her absorption powers by mistake, and a wig resembling her hair she lost in the plane crash. Over time, the rest of the team would come around, and she would officially become a part of the X-Patrol. Alright, so if you couldn't tell already, Negative Rogue here is a fusion of Negative Man from the Doom Patrol and Rogue from X-Men. I went with this fusion because neither of them are able to touch people, and I thought their powers could work together in an interesting way. Also with this one, I thought it'd be like a fun little inversion to where I could have her join the Brotherhood of Evil Metamutants, kind of like how Rogue started out as a Brotherhood member before joining the X-Men. You know, have a little fun little inversion before she like actually joins at the end. You know, have like a sweet little moment and all that. Also get to introduce a little more Brotherhood members, and I also love doing the effects for like Magnabrain's voice. Art-wise, I had a lot of fun with this. For the Rogue side, I went more towards like the 90s animated series. You know, the iconic costume that's like green but with like a yellow stripe down the middle. I love doing those colors together. They look really nice. And also for the Negative Man side, I went towards like the Gerard Way run where he has like the cool pointy glasses. He also has like a similar outfit with like a stripe down the middle, and also he has like this like jacket with like fur on it. I just made it brown like Rogue's leather jacket that she sometimes has. Gave them fur boots. I don't think either have fur boots in the comics, but I just thought it meshed well with the design. The only weak part I think is the Rogue Spirit itself. I'm not sure if I should have shaded it. It looks kind of weird. I was trying to make it kind of androgynous, but I think it leans a little bit too much towards masculine, but you'll have to let me know y'all thoughts in the comments. With that, we have Anna Trainer, aka Negative Rogue. James Logan Steele was born in 19th century Canada. That is all he can remember about his childhood. He vaguely remembers serving in several wars, as well as being a race car driver, but that's about it. He had the ability to grow 3 bony claws from each arm, heal rapidly, and had a greatly enhanced olfactory system. At a certain point, his memories became a little less foggy. He remembers getting into a horrific accident, leaving pretty much only his brain intact. He was then rebuilt. They replaced his body with a metal one. His bones would regenerate into ones made without adamantium. His skin would be replaced with a flexible ceramic metal alloy, and his healing factor would be supplemented by nanomachines. As they began to wipe his memories, he would manage to break free from containment and go rogue. Years later, he would be tracked down by Nick Flagg, head of Aegis. He offered to give him a way to regain his memories under one condition, that he stop some creature wreaking havoc in the Yukon. Luckily, Logan's new body came with a nose, and he was able to find the beast in no time, a hulking green creature wearing a purple costume with lightning bolts.
Alright, bud, we can do this the easy way or the fun way.
The beast simply roared at him.
Fun way it is, then.
Logan smirked, popping his claws. The beast then sped towards him at Mach 10 and punched him through multiple mountains. Logan's new body was tough, however, and whatever did break off was promptly healed. Eventually the beast would wear itself out near a base of a waterfall and reverted back to a scrawny man. As Logan signaled Aegis to pick him back up, the man came to and muttered, It's a trap. They're trying to kill 2 birds with one. The task force Flagg sent to pick him back up wasn't just any task force. It was Weapon Force X. Silverback, Omega 104, Dead Piece, and Lady Arsenal had the pair surrounded.
Damn, Victor, I didn't think you can get any uglier.
He heckled at Silverback.
That's it, boy, Deckens. I see you've a little worked on yourself, no?
Oh my god, Mala, you two can make out or whatever when we get back to the ship. Let's hurry up and bag these 2 before Tall Green and Ugly here wakes up, Dead Piece remarked. Dead Piece and Lady Arsenal opened fire at Dr. Barry Banner before Clawbot jumped in the way and deflected the bullets with his metal carapace. Omega 104 dropped down from the cliff and caught Clawbot's right arm in a metallic tendril before coating the tendril in a sulfuric acid and melting the entire forearm off. As Lady Arsenal swooped in, Clawbot sliced off her gun arm and used it to replace his missing one before firing at Omega. Dead Piece then activated his weird-looking helmet, which flew him into the fray as he pulled out dual katanas. Clawbot kicked Lady Arsenal in the shin, causing her to move her claw hand in Dead Piece's way, cutting him into 5 vertical slices. Yeah, nah, dude, it's cool. Just turn me into prosciutto after getting one line in the video, and I'm cool with it. As Clawbot continued his slaughter, he noticed Silverback hanging from an airship's rope ladder, with Dr. Banner in his arm. As he extracted a DNA sample, Banner got angry and transformed into the Smash, knocking both off the ladder. Silverback managed to grab back onto it with his gorilla foot and catch a sample. Once back on the ship, he noticed the Smash throwing something at the ship. It was Clawbot, fully healed. He penetrated the ship's hull and began laying into Silverback. Victor endured the slashing and dug into Clawbot with his own claws, ripping his carapace apart. Clawbot let out a primal yell before stabbing Silverback in his brain. With Aegis now on his back, he needed somewhere to hide. He would eventually find a place where he would almost fit in, a place that saw him as more than a weapon. He would be one of the first to join a newly formed X-Patrol. Some of you may be wondering, why fuse these 2 of all characters? Is he running out of ideas? No, this is actually one of the first ideas I had. Mainly because, okay, hear me out. Both of them have body parts that are replaced with metal. You know, Wolverine, it's his skeleton and his claws. And with Robot Man, it's his entire body except for his brain. They both like driving fast. You know, Cliff, obviously, you know, he's a race car driver. He also drives a lot for the Doom Patrol. And Wolverine, he has this motorcycle, and he also drives for the X-Men. Also have similar-ish personalities, which I thought would mesh well together. I also thought doing a robot filter on Wolverine's voice would sound kind of cool too, sue me. So in my previous video, I feel like the story was a little too much like little kid mashing their action figures together, so I tried correcting that for this video. I tried to be more emotional about what it is to be human, you know, all that mushy stuff, but to avoid overcorrecting, I basically just did the ultimate kid mashing action figures together for this story. I gotta introduce a lot more characters. You know, it's always fun for me. I gotta basically a sneak preview of future videos that I might do later. Wink wink, vote in the polls. Design wise, I'm in love with it. Basically changed the yellow from Wolverine's costume to the orange from Robot Man's metal skin, or whatever you call it in this context. Yeah. Also gave him the weird segmented like shoulder pads that Robot Man sometimes had, but like changed them to the shape of like Wolverine's shoulder pads. I thought that was clever. So yeah, not really too much to say about it. I feel like I could have done a little better on the execution, but overall I think the design kind of carries it a bit. And with that, we have James Logan Steele, aka Clawbot. And here we have it, the beginning of the X Patrol. Some of you who watch my videos may know that I typically do polls at the end of the videos. I started that with my second video, and first poll was X Patrol versus Masters of Doom, and X Patrol lost that one, so I did Masters of Doom for the next video. And I didn't want to jump right into the next Masters of Doom video right after that because I was getting kind of tired of villain stuff. So I did another poll, and X Patrol was another one of the options, and it lost to Young Titans. But then for the next video, I wanted to finally get around to Masters of Doom Part 2. But one of the ideas for villains I had was, if you've seen it already, you know it's Sinestro with Super Skrull. So I basically had to do a Fantastic Four fusion, so that's why I got Fantastic Four mixed with Outsiders for the next video, and then I finally got around to the second part of the Masters of Doom. So now I thought it would be finally a good time to get around to doing X Patrol. I had this team in my head for about 8 or 9 months now, so it's finally to get some closure on that. Speaking of polls, my last 2 polls came out as ties. Y'all couldn't decide if your favorite villain from the last video was Sinister Skrull or Lead Turtle. And for the next video, y'all couldn't decide if you wanted to see Invader Society or Guardians. I did a tiebreaker on Discord, and next video is going to be the Guardians. Also, just like in all of my other videos, if you are able to guess who any of these fusions are, who weren't drawn, were supposed to be fusions of, I'll give you a shout out in the next video. And just like last video, I'm going to be putting up 2 votes when this one comes out. One for which character was your favorite, and one for which video you'd like to see next. Though there is like only 4 options for voting in polls, so one of the characters is going to be left out on the favorite character poll, so if your favorite gets left out, I'm sorry, it's YouTube's fault. And also, if you made it this far in the video, make sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment to let me know your thoughts on the video. They really do help. See you guys in the next video, where I'm going to combine Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy with DC's Rebels. I've been DJ, this has been Drawing with DJ, and thank you guys for watching. Goodbye.